of the Bargersville Parks Board. Let's rise to the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we'll go to the roll call to my right.
Kelly McGarry, Rhonda Anthony,
Keith Cecil.
Barry Pack.
And turn it over to Dan Cartwright to present our first order of business.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. I have a couple of basic announcements I want to make to start off with. First one is the town council approved the shifting of $750,000 of the ARPA funds into the parks. So that's good. So that is has been done. And the other thing, which was not on the agenda, but you have it, I think you have a handout of it, is the town council also approved, adopted an ordinance to establish a special non-reverting fund to administer restricted donations received for the parks. So basically what that means is that we now have a fund or an account that any money that is raised for the parks, or pitches, whatever, okay, would go into this fund. It's just an accounting book. So that also was approved by the council.
Does that include Legacy Plaza?
Yeah. Includes anything in the parks. And Chris will talk a whole lot more about this later on. But that has been approved by the council.
Because I know we were doing that because we were I think in the hole on that project. That project was built with the intent to make those dollars back, but they just rolled that into their budget somehow.
I don't think I knew where the money went or anything.
Okay.
Now we're gonna know though.
Okay.
And now I wanted to tell you too that I received a call from the people that operate the Banner Hall. Is everyone familiar with that? Well, it's way out there. It's at our southern limit of our town.
Did it have the fish fry sign? I see your eye.
Yeah, they used to have fish fry and all kinds of stuff, okay? It's really a nice facility. Chris and I went out there 2 weeks ago, I guess, something like that. They called, it's the second phone call I got. First phone call I got was probably 3 months ago. It said, hey, you guys want to take over the Banner Hall? And I said, well, I don't think we're interested in it. And he said, apparently it was operated by a non-for-profit that was established quite a few years ago. And primarily elderly people. And they've all either died off or they've gone to Florida, or whatever. So there's one guy left there, okay, that's trying to figure out what he's going to do with it. They're broke. It's a very nice facility. It's probably, I would say half size, again, larger than what our community center is, but inside is really nice. About 4 or 5 years ago, I actually attended a retirement party there. It's the only time I was ever there. But it is very, very nice inside. There's no parking though. Absolutely no parking at all. So we went out and met with him, sat down, talked to him. He said, I'm not booking anything. He said, I can't book anything because I don't have any volunteers to do anything. So the Bana Church, Methodist Church or something, I think it's called there, right around the corner, a little small country church. They were having some of their events there, and the church agreed to pay their utilities few months ago, until the end of the year. Well, now, the end of the year's passed, and the guy didn't have any money to pay his utilities or anything else. So he's looking for someone to take it over, okay? Although it's a very, very nice building, it has no parking, it's in the middle of nowhere. And we said, we passed on, we said, no, this is not something that we want to take on. But I made a couple phone calls, one to a parishioner at that church, and another one to Johnson County Foundation. I guess what their deal is that if they ever close that down, then the Johnson County Foundation gets the building. And Johnson County Foundation really didn't want it either. But so they used to have a considerable amount of activity there. It was very active. So hopefully some of the activity they used to get there, we can get at our place. We're not in a position to take more people to take, it's been a lot of work to take care of that place as far as maintenance and that kind of thing. Biggest problem is it has no parking. I just want to let you know that if you hear anything about Banner Hall, that the town not helping them, it's true. So,
Any idea how many square feet it is?
it's probably about half the size bigger than ours, you think?
Yeah, the capacity, I think he said, was about 125 comfortably seated at tables, and we've got 75 at the community center is not complete.
Inside looks, it's got wood floor and it's
Commercial kitchen equipment.
real good kitchen equipment, big double wide, all stainless steel. I mean, it's nice. It's just, it's stuck out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, what it always was, it was someplace for the people in that area. But they used to have fish fries on a regular basis, weekly or something like that. They used to have all kinds of potlucks. And they had a group of women that came in and cooked. And I guess at one time that was the place where everyone went for dinner on Friday nights.
And where
How
did
did
they
they
park
handle
in
it? Yeah, how'd they handle the parking then?
There's a field across the road and down about 50 yards that some farmer lets them park in. But if you go straight out Whiteland Road, I take it to Banner Road, hang a left, go south, you'll see quite a ways down there, you'll see on the right-hand side, you'll see the Vanta Church, I don't know what it is. Turn left right there, and it's the second building on that road. I'm not sure what that road is. But it's just a little wood frame building, but it used to be pretty active, but we passed on taking it on. It's like we'd be taking something on, trying to figure out how we're gonna not lose money on it. We've already got one of those right now we're working on, so we can't. So I'll keep my eye on it, see if anything, what happens. But, it just wouldn't make any sense for us, but I want you to be aware of it in case anyone brings it up. And I think everything else on here Chris is taken care of. She has been very busy. We all have been very busy in creating rules and regulations and fees and all sorts of stuff. It's a really blessing. It's a real blessing that we have her because she knows what she's doing and you'll find out. So that's all I had, unless someone has a question for me.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good morning. I put all my information in order, so hopefully it goes as smoothly as it's supposed to. So The first item that I have on the agenda is the the facility rules and information for the community center. This was just a one-page document. This is what would be posted at the facility as well. Just basic information, what the capacity is. That's something that we easily can put out there, the square footage. I'll get into updates of what's going on there, capacity, and then general rules, which is tied in. You don't need to approve any of that right now because it's tied into rental policies and rental fee schedule, which is my next item. But this was specifically for the community center. We will have something. It's a one-page.
I think right over here. Okay, I got you. Yes.
So this is taking snippets from my next item that I believe you need to approve if you agree with it. This is 2 pages, and this probably stands out a little bit more. It has 2 pages with the fee schedule as well, the proposed fee schedule. Is a facility rental policy. So this would be for the community center as well as once Cathcart opens, renting out those shelters. And then going down the line, if anything else were to be added that we rent out. General policies as far as first come, first served, how payment is made, there's no alcoholic beverages, tobacco substances. The person renting the space must be on site, so I can't rent it for my neighbor, kind of thing. So that's a liability issue. We do have, we went through a facility rental agreement and we have all of that approved by the attorney. Fees, we were looking at a resident, non-resident structure, and I worked through a few scenarios to make sure I'm able to identify that. So the taxpayers will have a discount or non-residents pay a little bit more, however you want to look at that. Nonprofits would receive the resident rate as well. So for the community center, $100 a day. We're not going to get into hours or partial days or anything like that. And then non-residents is $150 a day. With that space, it's comparable, probably a little bit lower than what it could go through, but I don't think it needs to be overpriced. We want to make sure people use that space and know that it's there. Cathcart shelters, due to the capacity, there's only 4 picnic tables under each of those. That's why it's a 40 and 60 rate there. But I believe the fee schedule is something that would need to be approved if you agree with that. There are 2 in Cathcart. And the other shelters, I got the question, what about the shelters in the other current parks? And you would not do that for what are considered neighborhood parks. Neighborhood, smaller parks, that's not something, more when you have a bigger reach with other amenities like pickleball and those things. Cathcart would be used for birthday parties or graduation parties or those sorts of things, but Windish, Switzer, those are just for people to use. It's not something you would rent the facility or the shelter.
How would you know, like if you were at the park, if somebody had those shelters rented, would there be a schedule posted?
Yes, we'll have a sign at each of the shelters, and I'll probably put it up once a week. Usually it's just weekends that gets rented, and then if it's not reserved, it's first come, first served. But we would have that, and then eventually, the idea is to have online registration software where people can do that, and you'd be able to see the schedule there as well.
I don't have a problem with the cost. I was looking at the, so is it, why 7 days? Why are we worried about that first line there to set that? It has to be at least 7 days in advance.
Because I need to post the schedule.
Okay.
So there's a few things. If we're talking the community center, I need to program the access code. They still can come and say, hey, is it available tomorrow? As long as I can get hold, get it taken care of, get it paid, program the code, and that sort of thing. But for the shelters in general, I'll probably be posting the sign depending on my week. Wednesday. So if they call me Thursday, then I've got to rent it, they've got to pay it, I've got to go back out, change the sign. So in general, if I can make it happen. It does not have to be 7 days. That just gives me a little bit of lead time. Most people are gonna, once they know, it's gonna be a couple months in advance. So, the first business day is because, makes it fair to everyone, so that it's not, we always have a family reunion on September, the third Saturday in September. We always have it. Well, we want everyone to have the opportunity to have it, so it's just this is when it starts. Plus, that gives me opportunity to reserve the space for some of our programs or special events. So if I'm in planning phases and someone already has it rented, that throws it into theirs.
Should we, so with the 2 shelters at Kephart and it being the size of park that it is it advisable to have both of them available for rental, or should we only allow one for rentals and the other for other patrons of the park to use?
I think you'd still make it available to rent those shelters. So in my previous employment, we had 7 shelters and they were almost always reserved. That just means those picnic tables under that space. You definitely could come and sit on the lawn. It does not mean you reserve the amenities. You can still come to the playground. You can still do all those things. But that space is usually.
Well, I think it might also create a situation where people are like, well, this one's not reserved for today. I'm gonna get there at 7 a.m. so I can have it and not have to pay. Sort of, if you know one shelter isn't, you don't have to pay for it, I think.
I was just thinking about having a place where, everybody who's on the splash pad may want a moment of shade or something and somewhere to go and have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And not make it reservable or claimable, it's just for general use.
And a lot of that will be your shade structures, your
Okay.
picnic benches, and some of those spaces.
Okay, no, that's fine with me.
I think weekends that'll be. I would anticipate you get a good amount of these, for sure, with that. What is, it doesn't really matter. How did you come up with the price? Is this, how many, if you could tell me, which parks did you look? I'm sure you looked at other parks and I'm like, yeah, this is what they're charging. Which ones did you look at?
I looked at Franklin, Greenwood, trying to look more at Johnson County ones. I've also looked at Danville, Plainfield, Mooresville, Martinsville. I don't go into Indianapolis because that gets very city with different neighborhoods as far as how they do things. But those are, I think there were about 6 that I looked at it. The major factor for that fee again is, to me, what I'm used to is it's a very small shelter. There are 4 tables. I'm used to being able to do 80 to 100 weekends, 80 to 120, or the big shelter is 200. But it's still a perfect size for a birthday party. Not everyone is going to come sit at the tables for the exact same time. So whether it's a family reunion, whether it's an organizational small meeting, we had, I think it's a Red Hat Society would come, have their monthly meetings and things like that. It's just a nice space to be able to organize. So that's why it's lower than most places that you look at, because of the capacity of, I'd say, max of 40 with those programs.
We did my son's graduation party at Craig Park, which is in Greenwood, in May of last year. And we did it for the whole day. And my portion of it, because I did a half of it, was like $100. Now it's a huge space. But I think that's completely for 4 tables. I think that's a good price.
Motion?
Excuse me, Chris, are you asking for approval of the facility rental policy and the rules and regulations?
So the rules and regulations and the fees are what really needs, the fee schedule has to be, we have to have an approved fee schedule.
Not the rules and regulations?
Well, the rules and regulations, I don't know if you want to do it separate or together, but
They would need to be done separate, I think, but you're asking for both of those, right?
yes.
Okay. Just want to clarify.
So circling back to this, So you would be able to pay this and reserve it for the day at Kephart Park, the whole day.
You reserve it for the day, yes.
That's what the other parks are doing.
There are some parks that do a half a day, but you're turning into a maintenance issue and, you know, making sure that the trash is emptied and this is down and whatnot. We don't have the staff for that yet. But it also, a lot of times you run into, then you have to designate a time. It's usually, you know, 7 to 1 and then 2 to, and then people say, well, I want my party from 10 to, so you're doing it for the day anyway. So it's just trying to look for a simple, clean line, but most of it's for the day. They might not use it for the entire day, but they have it. A lot of times, for example, we have the community center already reserved for a baby shower, and I think the shower's 2 to 6, but they want to get in at 11 to decorate and sign it, or, you know, get things the way they want. So builds in that extra time.
To your point, here's a thought. I don't think this would be too hard, but if we said, you know, because we got a sign, right? You're gonna put a sign out. If we said that by 7 days in advance, we would like to know the times that you would be using. What I'm getting at is that, like, because I agree with you. You know, there's like the shelters, but then you also, if it's not going to be used, nobody's sitting there. I wouldn't want to get out there with my family, but I'll wait because I can't go in there. But you probably could, you know, if it's in the morning or something like that, and they weren't going to use it until like 1 o'clock. What if 7 days in advance they said the perimeter? So then we put on the shelter, you know, the Cecils, you know, 12 to 6. And then you would know, and then so someone coming up would know, hey, oh, we better not go in there because they're about to come and set up.
Yeah,
Would that be complicated?
Right now, no. In the future, yes. And I know it sounds a little backwards,
Yeah.
but I anticipate in the future, yes. So in general, what usually happens is people will come up, they see it's reserved, there's nobody there. They'll still set up knowing as soon as Mary shows up, we've got to move. So if no one's there, they will sit down, they will have their lunch, they'll do whatnot until someone comes up. In the future, a lot of times those online reservation systems are defaulted or set to it's this much per hour or this much per day. And so when you click on, I want to rent this reservation, it'll automatically come up, okay, well, it's available 7 to 9. But if it's fluctuating, okay, you're going to use it 12 to 5, you're using it 7 to 3, those options would not show up in the future. And I've worked with 5 or 6 different software companies. That would be an issue in the future of them determining later what their time is. Because usually you print
at that point, though,
receipt.
right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I would say my experience, like at Independence Park, because I used to live close to there, is that, you know, I took my kids there all the time when they were growing up. We used the facility, like the picnic tables, a lot. Nobody was there, like during the week, like you said, it's not always rented. We would use them. And if people showed up or if there was a group meeting, you didn't use it that day. But it wasn't like it was reserved. I mean, like I felt like I used the facilities, the picnic tables and stuff a lot with my kids when, you know, when they were younger, and that you had access to it. It wasn't like, because we have this reservation system, people in the town won't have access to those picnic tables. I mean, because I felt like I had plenty of access. I mean, there were times when they were reserved and we just knew, you know, there's, you know, a party there or something then. As far as my experience, I would, you know, yeah, I would want the community definitely to have access to those tables and stuff. But I mean, that's just been my experience as far as that part went. But
And since I'm doing everything manual to start, I could go through and put the specific time, because on the rental form it says, what time are you using it? So everything's gonna be manual. I'm printing the signs each week kind of thing. So that is a possibility. However you would like to proceed.
I think that would be nice.
So I have another concept,
Yeah, no, come on.
especially for Kephart and maybe even for the community center. I don't know if you could set it for certain hours. So I'm envisioning the pickleball teams being there early in the morning, stopping by noon, because it's gonna be too hot to play after that. Then from that afternoon on, they've rented the shelter for the day, but then maybe someone else is going to want that shelter from noon until 6. So we either have to say, well, it's a first come, first serve, or we have to say it's rented for the day. I'm sorry, we can't make it available. Is it possible to say you rent it from, this 4-hour block and this 4-hour block, or however it wants to be broken out, so that we could technically rent the same shelter twice in one day?
You could, and that's what I was talking about, that in general, most places, not all of them, do it for the day, specifically for maintenance reasons. Because if I go and I have a birthday party and I put streamers up and balloons, and maybe I didn't do a great job cleaning the shelter, and then now you show up for your event and you have to clean my space that you rented.
I understand. So I love that. I get that point too. So then let's say we got an event on Saturday, right? And we got reserved on Sunday. Who's coming in to make sure that it's clean before Sunday?
That's part of us figuring that out, as well as who's emptying trash and all that. So that is a process that will be established before we open Camp Park. So that's something that has to be figured out.
So somebody's gonna pull trash once a day.
We're gonna have to look at use, because there's only, and some of it too, state parks are usually take out what you bring in. Local parks usually aren't, but there are only 4 receptacles in that park. There's not a lot. I mean, you don't want trash cans everywhere, but there's not a lot.
Already, yeah.
I mean, that's one at each shelter, one at pickleball, and one, I can't remember the other one.
We're gonna have a dumpster out there.
I think we voted.
There's no space for it right now.
Other stuff in it.
Okay. So you just have bags rolling around up there.
No, I think. the
Or
idea
trash
is
cans.
Either we do it ourselves, empty it, or we ask them to take it with them, correct?
Well, I don't have it to take it with them in the rules. We would have to change that.
There's so much of this, we're just kind of, as we get into it, we'll see what works and what doesn't
And
work.
some of them, we've got to
That's
see the
it.
use of kind of part 2 and see, I mean, that's a lot of times, you build sidewalks and then you see where people actually walk, so you don't want to put 8 trash cans, especially if they're not cheap. And then go, oh, well, they put all their water bottles right there, let's put a trash can there, kind of thing.
The main purpose of this is to get something established so she can start renting and getting the information out to the people that are interested in things. This will probably have to be adjusted, or we will have to adapt to whatever happens. So.
I don't know that I'm ready for that. I kind of like the idea of being able to do part of the day. I don't know. But it's every other park is just that's my struggle. If the other parks are doing that.
They also have software up too. That's the thing. It was super easy, to go in and click, and I want this part of the day, check, and then it's done. And
But if you could reserve for just half, what if you just did half? Reserve
If
for
you
half.
do a half a day, you still would define the hours. It wouldn't be, you come tell me what you want.
Right.
It's, okay, you get it 7 to 1 and 2 to 8 or what, I don't
Yeah,
know what that is.
No, that's-
So you have a definitive, it's not, oh, well, you want it from, 11 to 3 and you want it from 2 to, well, that's not gonna work.
yeah. Time A, time B. Or the all-day option, but it's gonna cost you more. You pay it both.
That's an option.
I like that better. I don't know, what do you guys think? Is that possible?
It's possible, I have to figure out who's gonna go in and check on stuff each weekend, but we can We can got still have a little bit of time.
I mean, I think Chris's point is the maintenance issue. I mean, how much is that gonna cost us to have somebody come out? I mean, you know, like you said, we still have to figure out who's gonna come in between Saturday and Sunday if it's rented both days. You know,
During the week, it's not a big deal.
Right.
Right.
It's not.
Because she can call Brian, the street department, say, will you send somebody over to get the trash, pick up that trash someplace and do it. It's just that weekend, because weekends, you know, for our employees, it's overtime pay.
And that's when people are gonna rent this, you know, nobody's renting
You're,
during the
you're
week.
exactly right.
But there will be that
Yeah, well,
service needed because the splash pad will be open and park in general will need some kind of check system on the weekend as well.
I can't figure that out though.
Okay.
And we do have money, and we'll be talking about this, we do have money in the budget for part-time help in the summer, so we just don't have very much money. I think we've got 30-some thousand or something like that for part-time seasonal help. So we just, again, we just gotta go forward and figure it out as we go.
So would it, Keith, based on your concerns, would it be a good idea to start out with the time split? You know, here's your first rental, second rental, see how it works, see how it runs, because it would be easier to go, no, it's a full day rental once we see that the 2 times on a date isn't working, rather than saying, oh, well, now we're gonna divide it to 2 days
Yeah,
instead of a full day rental.
probably would be easier to go back that way than it would. And, you know, I know we have to circle into some other policies.
Processing.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think about so then are you charging $40 each for the morning and 40 for the afternoon?
Yeah. That's cheap. And it's a small space, but it's still,
Essentially.
I think if you end up doing, I think you're gonna see a lot of people doing the whole day. Because if I look at the things that are going to happen, it's going to be a birthday party. It's going to be a graduation open house. It's going to be a family reunion. It's going to be, you know, a small family reunion, obviously. But I think it's gonna be, well, we want an open house, but open house is from whatever, 2 to 5, but oh shoot, I don't wanna be rushed to decorate and do everything in that amount of time, so they may end up.
So they would rent both time slots for $80.
which is okay, but as a courtesy, I still feel like there would be some folks, I think there'd be folks who certainly want to do that. Hey, you know, I gotta get out there, get all my streamers out, my balloons, all that kind of stuff. But I also think for every person that's gonna do that, there's gonna be somebody who's like, you know what, really, I'm gonna roll it in and we're gonna get in and out. You know, it's not a big setup thing, it's a birthday party, we're gonna put some balloons up, we're gonna eat the cake and we're gonna move on. And so we only need it for 3 hours, so if somebody else could do it in the morning, you know, and do a pickleball thing. I don't know, I just think that'd be a nice option for people to have, if, you know, if they're not interested in decorating the whole thing up. That mean, if I'm in the minority, that's just what I envision, you know.
I agree with that. I just feel like what she's saying though is how are we gonna then get it clean and take the trash out and do all
That's
that?
another
So I think that's
And I'm
the
not-
biggest issue.
Right, I'm not sure, you know, talking about the policy, I don't know that I'm okay. We didn't get the packet, I mean,
Mhm.
I'm not gonna vote to approve any policy. I mean, I would be in the minority, but, as far as the dollars, and the rental fee, that seems like a good start to me.
Can we talk about, if you still are going back and forth, can we talk about approving a community center so I can rent that out and break it up?
Yeah, I don't think we've had any discussion about the community center, so.
Is that enough money to establish cleaning it? Like, so my concern with the community center, so we've always had, I feel like nice looking parks. We've done I feel like a really good job of keeping the grass mowed, everything clean and nice. And I would like for us to be able to sustain the maintenance of that building at a high level, at a reasonably high level, where it's not just, use it and do your best, sweep some crumbs up and move on. Where we would make sure that it's clean, that there's some kind of process to cleaning the tables, to mopping the floor, to making sure the bathroom is clean, all of that. Is this sustainable? That's my question. Do we factor in the cost of cleaning it? Or are we thinking that they would just, does that make sense where I'm going?
It does. We have a, as needed, I guess, quote from our current cleaning company of, a will call essentially of what that would be. Is it sustainable to have them come in after every rental? Absolutely not, because our rental fee is less than what it is for them to come in. The idea is hopefully I will be in there and checking and seeing what things are. If there's actual damage, they would be assessed a fee. I believe that's part of the rental process that we established what the fee was, but I need to look back at that. So when you're talking about sustainability, it really depends on, can it 100% cover the cost of everything, including cleaning, utilities? I have no idea how much it's going to be rented, so I can't answer that. But I also intend to use it for some of our programs. So I can't fully answer your question. I was just trying to look at, same thing, comparisons of the space, what the uses may be, and not to outprice ourselves to start.
Right.
We want to sort of get on the map as a
You
place
need
that,
rentals. Yeah, I
that
agree.
people will use. So, you don't want to price yourself out of using it. It seems reasonable to me, the 100, like I said, last month, rented a community center in a small town in Ohio, and there was a resident rate and a non-resident rate, and so that's, definitely, you want to make it so people here feel like they can use it. So.
Chris, you and I did have a conversation about possibly having a damage deposit on the community center, and then I don't really know where we went with that conversation. That would be something.
I said no.
Administratively, it's a pain in the butt.
Right.
It actually is something that in probably the 70s and 80s and maybe the beginning of the 90s, it was very common. You'd write your check for here's $150 and then here's my rental fee. Then you'd hold that, okay, nope, it's good, go ahead and shred it or return it or whatnot. And it honestly, at least in our field, really became more of an administrative burden and extra time where 99.5% of the time you're returning that check. So most places, I've seen a very small handful of places, and I'm probably talking more a number of states, not local, that still do that, and those are places that are probably a little bit still behind the times.
And maybe it's a thing where, before our very first rental, we had that thing spit shine to the nines, and then you set that.
That's the standard.
Yeah, leave it where you got it, and hopefully that. I don't know. You just don't want that. My concern is the narrative is they can't keep up. And I know you will be going over there to obviously check, make sure things are, and we can always make changes and that kind of thing, right? If it's not going well. I don't know.
Maybe we can make a do not rent again list.
It does have in the policies that if for some reason there's any damage or it's not cleaned, that they're forfeiting their right to rent any of our spaces in the future.
So are we good then to vote on the community center and table the Kephart Park portion of it? I'll make a motion that we accept the rates for the Bargersville Community Center rentals as presented, and as $100 a day for resident, $100 a day for nonprofit, and $150 a day for non-resident.
All in favor?
Aye.
So as further discussion on Kephart, because I'm sure, we need to try to think about getting that. We got a little bit more time because it's not actually live, whereas the community center is live. Do we want to just think about that and circle back, or Chris, would you maybe be able to put some time into, here's another full day, half day, here's what 2 hours could be, what would make sense that, to have an option like that for us to look at. I don't know what you all think.
When is Kephart Park, when would it theoretically be available to rent? How do we have
Construction.
yeah, I know, do we have a timeline on that?
And probably June 1.
I was just curious on how much time we had. Obviously, it seems like you're getting calls or potential customers. Is that?
I haven't gotten any calls about Kephart. We don't have any information out about Kephart.
Okay.
And the town is also going to be launching their new website, which will give us more capability to put that information out there.
And I would advise that we not rent. I guess your thing, until it's there, I don't think we should take rentals. In case something happens and we can't, because then we're issuing refunds and all that kind of stuff. We can't hit the timeline.
So I think I would like to see a proposal or an outline, whatever we need to vote on next time of, I don't know what a half day would work out, but probably have to state specific hours with the ability to rent the full day at a rate or half the day essentially at a rate.
We got time on Kephart.
Yeah.
This can be decided next month.
Yeah, do we need to
Because we're not, like she said, we're not marketing it.
Yeah. Do we need to approve the policies and procedures for the community center? Or was that?
If you're okay with them. Yes. The policies and procedures are the same for both locations. As far as how you go about reserving a space, paying for a space, all that's the same for any location. I don't think there's really anything that's different between the two.
Okay, so we're allowing, I'm seeing at the top, we're saying including a kitchenette that includes a refrigerator, a microwave, counter space. And now we're saying foods may not be cooked or prepared at the facility in item 4. Does that mean
So,
you can use the microwave or no?
yes, so a lot of times if you're talking your raw foods, it's not a commercial kitchen, there no longer are stoves in there, so that's not an issue anyway. That's why that was put in there, because there were stoves in there.
Somebody's gonna clean out the microwave.
For the checklist. If they're in there, it's hard to tell people that they can't use it or know whether they used it or not. And that is, the microwaves really aren't a commodity as much as the refrigerators. That's what people are asking, is there somewhere to put my birthday cake? Is there that sort of thing?
So we might want to, if we're going to do that, then we might want to say a refrigerator and microwave are available for use during the rental, right? And item 4.
We can do that. It has it in the beginning part. Talks about including a kitchenette, refrigerator, microwave, and counter space. So the cooking
What are you guys
prepared is
looking at?
really,
What are
they're
you
coming
looking at
in,
right
it's page 2 of the one that has the facility rental.
Oh, okay.
Fees on it. So, the foods may not be cooked or prepared is really, you're bringing in your crock pots. You're bringing in, there's still gonna be, okay, I'm gonna arrange my celery and carrots, but it's not a full-fledged commercial kitchen, essentially. But we can also take that entire line out if you think it's confusing.
I love that. I like line 4. I don't care for the part at the top. I don't know that we need to advertise, including the kitchenette with all that, because we're not hoping that people are going to use that, right?
That would be a
First
phone
question
call
I've gotten.
if it's not on there.
First question I've gotten
That's
on
what I would
every phone
ask.
call.
Do you have a refrigerator, microwave?
But in line 4, foods may not be cooked. A refrigerator and microwave are available for use during the rental. You know what I'm saying?
So why
I
just
just
look
look
at the foods may not be prepared or cooked? They won't have the capacity unless they haul in their own grill and their own smoker and.
Well,
I think
because we
everything
have a
needs to
range
have
in
that.
there.
I mean,
We have a range
well,
in there.
she said
No, we
they're
haven't
gonna take
taken
it out.
Oh, it is?
Take it out, yeah.
Yeah, we took both stoves out. That's just something we don't want to get involved in.
Oh,
Or people actually cooking in there.
okay, perfect.
So, I mean, so you're just, the wording, so a refrigerator or microwave is available for heating or cooling. I mean, it's not for cooking is the, it's all what we're worried about, or?
It makes sense to me. I'm not gonna cook anything, right? I mean, I'm not gonna make it at home.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't do anything like this for heat stuff, so I think it's,
Yeah.
find out that the oven and stoves are up there. There's not gonna be cooking.
I think the only reason it's in both places is when we advertise, we will have the rules and everything listed, but usually people only read the summary. And then, so if they read the summary, it doesn't have anything, I get the, is there a refrigerator? Well, if you look at item 4.
Okay. I feel way better knowing that, because I thought that we were trying to prevent people from using the ranges in there.
We
Honestly,
were.
that-
We
honestly,
were, because I didn't have the timeline of when, I said the gas one has to go.
Yeah.
And so, but they're both now gone, so
Okay.
that is not an issue.
And I'm 180 hearing that, so.
That's further down on my agenda, I haven't gotten to that yet.
Yeah, I'm totally good with it then. Yeah, glad we can prove that. Or if there's further discussion.
So I make a motion that we accept the Bargersville Park and Recreation Rental Facility Agreement for guidelines for the community center. And the shelter and pavilions for Kephart Park are on hold for further discussion.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next item, which now we're gonna talk about Kephart Park, is the sheet that has the pictures. It should be 2 pages. It's a lot better in color, but I didn't print it out in color. So, specifically talking first, this is why there's 2 different items on the agenda. There are 4 benches designated on the design of Kephart Park. It is listed that they were going to be the limestone block/benches that are here moved over there. I have had some discussion with Susie as well to see if there was a historical purpose to those benches or any, why were those included kind of thing. There really was no reason, other than they are here because they had to have a barrier for the restaurant. That's why they are here. It was kind of backwards. I was looking at the next item on the agenda and then came back to, it'd be nice to have actual benches that fit a little bit more, park setting. So what I was looking at, because some of that too, you look at sponsorship dollars for someone who purchased said bench. So I was looking to see if we could replace, those benches are on us. So it is not part of the construction cost. So if we were to use the limestone ones, the town was to move them, install them through all of the, that's on our dime. So this does not include a change order or anything. We have to install them no matter what. But I was looking to change and not use those limestone. There is nowhere else in that park where there's limestone. There's nothing that it brings together or anything like that. There's nothing wrong with them, but was looking more for a classic looking park bench. For the ones to replace what is in the design, was looking at the one that has two, I guess I don't have two pictures, that has handles, essentially. It's called the Landmark Park Bench. It is powder coated cast aluminum, and then the slats are recycled plastic slats. You can't tell that, but essentially recycled milk jugs, those sorts of things. And then we would be able to put an aluminum plaque, cast aluminum plaque for any donor. So I'd like to replace the 4 limestone benches with something like the Landmark Park Bench, and then seek sponsors for those to pay for said benches. The price range that is on there is just the difference between a 5-foot and a 6-foot bench. $19.49 for a 5-foot bench, the 2005 was for a 6-foot bench.
So with the limestone ones, I recall, there wouldn't have needed to be a concrete pad or anything for those. They were just. Okay. So we're not gonna be facing that additional expense.
Would be putting together the bench and then installing it, as opposed to moving it. And I'm not sure how those big limestone, they're not light.
You're gonna roll a crane and a big truck.
And a crane cannot get to the locations of where these benches are going. I don't know how those-
Do you have in mind who would be sponsors or the ability to get sponsors for these?
We would have the ability to get sponsors for these. I have a list, and that's something we're starting to look at, but I have not identified anyone or group or business.
But you think that would be reasonable, that people, businesses would want to sponsor?
There would be no problem
Definitely.
selling those.
Definitely.
What would be your, where are you coming in at, like $5,000 on a piece, or what are you thinking on
What to ask for
the
them?
sponsorship?
So, no, that's a little bit higher, but that is my question to you is, and the same thing goes into the Memorial Bench and Brick program. If you're looking at an amenity at cost plus a little bit for installation, or are you looking as to be a revenue generating item? So I think there's 2 different things. There's 4 benches that I'm looking to change in Kepp Park, and then the Memorial Bench is different. But so that I am asking the board if you're looking to just cover the cost, or if you're looking to add a little bit for some additional advertising.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, I'm comfortable with just replacing or using it as an amenity. And then do you see opportunities later to add additional benches when somebody sees these 4 and says, well, I want in on that? Is there an opportunity to add additional ones?
That's my next item on the agenda. But I can combine them if you'd like. That really was part of what this part in your packet is, 2-page. It's very rough, but the Memorial Park Bench and the Legacy Plaza Brick program of having, so it is super easy, very common to have, it's not always a memorial bench, but that type of program. And that's why I have the other pictures on here as well. Because what I would propose, you know, the amount to be able to, you know, it's to identify where other places could go, where benches could go in Kephart. But I really would be looking at the first page, which is the one that says Roudabush Company. Those are a more reasonable bench, and it really, there's no difference between the $2,100 bench and the $520 bench. The Roudabush benches, same thing, they are recycled, so that's why they tie in together. But those are incredibly popular along the trail. You could identify other places along the splash pad where these would be, I think I put them as, I was working on a sponsorship package, but these replacement landmark benches that were the 2000, what I was calling founder benches, and then the regular trail benches that could also go in parks. I think I was calling leisure benches. You know, hey, I need a break, or I need someplace to do push-ups while I'm doing my run, or I need, but these also could eventually replace some of the light benches in the other parks. They would be permanent, so they would be in the ground. So it's a little bit different than, I think, at least one of the pictures here. So that is something that, yes, I'm looking to be able to identify ahead of time where some of those locations may be, but they would not require concrete. They can go directly into the ground.
And these do look more like what we have. I think, like it with.
I think one of my concerns was if we go with this one and sell it at the amenity price rather than the sponsor price or whatever, then whatever we sold after that would have to, I would assume, have to be comparable in price.
Well, and that's why I was looking at two different types. So there's the one that would replace what's in the blueprints, and those would be your found. I just made up names just to distinguish between them. That those are established. That's part of them. Those are a nicer bench. They have the arms. They have the cast aluminum, so it's going to be a higher price. But being able to do the other benches. That's why the recycled lumber brings them together. They're not the exact same bench, but it does tie together that they match. They're both the cedar color and everything. That would be a lower price for leisure benches that could go on the trails and provide us.
Just power wash those once a year or something like that.
You don't even need to do that.
You know.
I mean, I've had benches before. I mean, you need some attention to make sure, I mean, you look at them. The only thing I've seen is after, I think the oldest ones that I had been a part of installing were about 15 years old. And after about 10 years, well, it was different because we would look at just having the plaque, not engraving the wood, was a little bit of mold in between the letters, but we didn't have the plaques. I would recommend the plaques. I think it looks a little classier.
These benches that are identified as the Roudabush Company, you know, those, she can just keep selling those. I mean, there's no limit to how many you can, because they can go all over trails, you know, down the roads. We wouldn't want to get crazy, but there's a lot of places to put these kind of benches.
Well, I think you identify those ahead of time of where they are because they will sell like wildfire. I mean, we had a waiting list. We stopped doing a program. We didn't identify places. We had a waiting list of 3 times as many benches as we put in. So, you know, you can put it every half mile on a trail or whatnot. Or if it's a loop, you do it less than that. So there's a lot of potential for that. That's really easy. You know, obviously.
Painting our benches.
I
Have you heard about that project? Brian probably told you.
And they look nice. there's just no maintenance to these other ones. And they do look like they belong in a park. They're tree looking.
And they're not gonna blow over and stuff.
Honestly, this is my opinion, I don't really like the carvings in there, I don't think,
I would not do those.
but I don't mind the plaque. I would not, I would rather,
I just couldn't
my
get a
thought,
good
if we
picture
sell
of
them, I don't want. Sorry, just down, my tone down a little bit, Ron's like, where you going?
Holding my breath.
I prefer that we not sell those plaques for less than $1,000 a piece,
The bench and the plaque.
the plaques.
What?
You know, she said however many plaques it takes, well, we're just gonna get the benches, isn't that what you're saying?
No,
No,
they're
it's
paying for the bench.
No.
They're paying for the bench.
This is the cost, the $519 is the cost of the bench. The cost of the bench and a poly plate.
But what I'm saying is you just, you put this out and, you're gonna get, if we frame it as we're just gonna get the benches, since we need 4, right? And then however many plates we get, that should cover easily, I mean.
We're talking about two different.
Yeah, you combine two things.
So let's talk, can we talk first about the kept part, replacing the 4 benches?
Yes.
So I am proposing this one that has the handles, the cast aluminum, and that we would get a sponsor. The cost of it, depending on whether we do a 5 or 6 foot, I need to see what those are. I haven't measured them. That cost is $1949 for 2005. So if this bench is okay, then we'd be able to put a plaque for whatever sponsor or whatnot. Would you want cost, or would you like revenue built into the 4 that are at Kept Park already on the plans?
Wait a minute, I thought you were saying you wanted the Rowdy Bush one. You're,
No,
okay.
The supplemental ones.
Those are extra. This is just like, she wants to sort of make it look more like a park bench to go with what we have out there and make it a little bit more as opposed to moving the limestone ones from here. And we think we could probably get sponsors. So do we want to do $2,000 for it, or do we want to do like a $2,500 or a $3,000 or a $5,000 or something as the cost for a sponsor to pay for the bench and to get a little plaque?
So I do have one question in that regard. Will these 4 benches be the only ones that are installed in the Kephart Park area? I understand there could be some in the trails. but in the
Right
Kephart
now,
Park
that is
area-
all that is identified in the plans. I would like to identify some of the other benches, and that's why they kind of match.
Okay, because that is one of my concerns, is that we'll have this style and then
I guess that would be how they look.
another style.
Yeah, but that's why I try to go with the cedar recycled so that they match, because you will get into, if you put a different bench in there, or I'm sorry, if you want more than 4, that is an issue with, now we've got to figure out concrete and where's that go and what's that take out and whatnot.
And the black would go with we're gonna have are we gonna have light posts out there?
There's one light post.
I like the idea of just using the one bench, but I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's fine, whatever you guys think, I'm okay with. It seemed to me that we would look at it as we just sell as many sponsorships as we can. If we need to fit more plaques on a bench, I mean, I don't see a big deal with that.
Nobody want to buy a bench and
Yeah,
share it with
if
someone.
it's shared,
I don't think so.
You don't.
Not these prices.
Well, that's what I was saying, $1,000, because we don't have, what other sponsor opportunity is there at Kept Park?
Well, I've been working on the sponsorship packet, I guess, or whatnot opportunity. We have been in discussions and we don't 100%, but it looks like we have a verbal commitment for $20,000 over the next 5 years to name the pickleball courts. So that has already been almost a done deal, I guess. So the other opportunities are.
That's like $100,000.
The
In
other
5 years.
naming opportunities is what we were starting with. So there's big ticket items. Really, the most likely is pickleball, but I think that's already sold. Splash pad and playground. those are a reach. It's possible, but they're a reach. And I didn't bring the naming opportunity. We were looking at the differences between naming opportunities and sponsorships. Sponsorships is more going to be on your events and things like that, whereas naming opportunities and then the memorial and bench program is a little bit different. But that ranged from 500,000 to well, I didn't put the memorial benches on there. I think the nicer benches I put 2,500. So it was a range, and then so 1,000 up. I didn't bring any of that stuff with me, so I'm kind of going off memory. But the larger ticket items we were looking at breaking up into a 5-year commitment, so it wasn't, hey, can we have $100,000? So there were a few different options there. So there are some naming opportunities, and then sponsorship, I was looking more for events and things like that.
Right, so I guess to Keith's point, he just, he's saying just use this one bench, the Rodabout bench. Would there be a problem with using that as a replacement for the 4 benches that we have, like in the program?
So then you're keeping it the same.
Then you have the
only
exact same
thing
bench.
that would be different is that they would have to be the surface mount in the 4 locations because there is a concrete pad there. And then the other ones, most likely, depending on where we identify that those would go. And I see those being installed after the fact, because you want to see where those patterns are, where do people want to watch their kid on the playground. Those most likely would be in ground. So that would be the main difference between them.
I'm looking at the first picture on the Rodabush, and from the looks of those legs, they are designed to attach to something rather than to go into the ground. Is the ground
There's
install
different,
an option?
there's
There are
different,
two different ones.
There's permanent posts or freestanding.
One below is just the
Right.
post.
Okay, thank you. Oh, and I see the option. See, I'm one of those people that don't read beyond the
It's
pictures.
okay. That's why you put the summary at top. But I do agree, if you decide to just do the Rodabush ones, I don't know what their timeline is, so I need to see what their lead time is. I did find out the lead time of that landmark bench, so I can find that out from Rodabush. I do recommend, again, that you just do a plaque and not the engraved letters. The engraved letters look okay, but I know one of the comments when I talked to Susie, she's like, looks like something in the cemetery. Well, they're very common in parks, but I would
Well,
agree.
my concern is if you get a warped board or something and it's the carving, it's gonna be much harder to repair than if it's just a plain board.
And we have set, I'm just thinking this through, we have set already some precedents for sponsoring things and donating in this park already. We allowed trying to think of this,
Rotary.
The Rotary folks.
And my board,
What's that?
my board and Rotary.
We have a My Board grant.
Okay.
Those
well,
are,
the
those
Rotary
are, those aren't really sponsorships, those are more
donations,
grants,
but yeah. I do feel like we should put some kind of sign on those bleachers that says some kind of recognition for the
We were
Rotary.
gonna
don't you?
contact the Rotary and see and have that discussion of what they want. I've been part of Rotary clubs
Maybe they may not
before.
want that, yeah,
It depends.
yeah.
A lot of times, and again, I'm not familiar with the Rotary around here, it was back in Illinois, but it was more, they like the publicity for the service things they did, not necessarily their donation. So it depends. So I think a conversation would be appropriate.
they would get I would obviously get recognition at our ribbon cutting, grand opening,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
That'd be good.
Aesthetically, I think
$1,000
I'm good with the Rodabush. And you said 1,000?
I like 1,000 on those. I think a business should pay $1,000 for sponsorship. I don't think $500.
But we don't want to rule out our individual.
But they could get a brick or something, right?
Yeah, they could do a brick, yeah.
The people, yeah, I think see, there's $500, see if you look at the next
Yeah.
page.
So-
People do these.
On the Memorial Park, the brochure, those are the actual brick prices. I took that from the flyer. So it's $500 for a 12 by 12 inch brick, 125 for an 8 by 8, and 50 for a 4 by 8. And I'm not sure how much traction those have gotten. I mean, I've walked out there, but.
That's the price that they've been selling.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the existing price.
Yes.
And we are not getting inundated with orders for those. I would be hesitant to increase that price if we expect to sell them.
I would not.
I agree.
And I'm not familiar with bricks as much, but, you know, the other thing with the Roundabush benches, I think you said we'd have them in stock. I wouldn't buy them in stock. I think we put on here that we would order twice and they'd be installed twice a year, you know, weather dependent and that sort of thing. So, okay, so you're not ordering every
Right, continually.
2.5 weeks or whatnot, and then it can be a time that it's knocked out, okay, this is bench installation day. So I don't think we would necessarily, nor do we have the space to have those on hand.
You could put it on the same schedule if you want to as a brick, because we've been doing those quarterly.
Okay.
I mean, whatever, it's just a thought, you order stuff every
Which
quarter.
ordering is fine, but installation can only happen
Oh, yeah.
twice a year or whatnot. But
Again, not fully reading it, but on the bench program, is it specific that they choose the location or it's up to the Parks Department?
so I think we would identify the different locations of where benches will go.
Okay.
And then I'd show them the map and they say, okay, I want that one.
Very
So it would
good.
be predetermined. Okay, so if that's the case, I don't know if they need to make a decision or whatnot, but as far as that you want the Roundabush to be the 4 benches instead of the limestone. Just so I make sure I know that's what you wanted.
I don't like that idea. I'm just gonna tell you right now. You need to look at this landmark park bench, is what you need to look at to replace the limestone in the park.
And I understand, I get what you're saying, but I think aesthetically, like, we're not gonna replace, so if we do those 4, and then people now wanna buy other ones, then you're gonna have those, and you're gonna have the others, you're gonna have 2 different ones, right? Is that what we're saying?
Well, these,
I
at
think they
this, at that
should
point, we're already.
Right, that's what I think they should.
No, I think they do coordinate. They don't match,
But you're
but
saying.
they coordinate. That's it. They both have the recycled
Yes. Sorry.
What makes you
cedar
think that,
color.
Dan?
Well, I think these are permanent, long-term type situations that look much more pleasant. The location of these are going to be systematically put where it's going to be more obvious, okay? Those are nice looking benches. I wish those were the kind of benches we had all the way through the park, but, you know, they're nice looking benches.
You don't think
The other ones don't have don't have any sides, they just, I don't know, it's just my opinion.
So I think those 4, they are an actual design destination. Here's the concrete, here's where it is, whatnot, so.
What do you guys think?
My only reservation with using the landmark bench, and then 6 months later, we put a Roundabush bench within 20 feet of it. It's not gonna be aesthetically pleasing. But I'm perfectly fine with these benches through the trails and everywhere else. If we go with the landmark bench around where they are already designed in,
We could do that and then only put those in Kephart and figure out.
only put those in the park area of the park, but the trail park, I don't have any problem at all putting these other benches in.
I agree.
Bush benches.
So even if there is something that we look at and we need more benches or whatnot,
Then
if
we
you
have to go
can,
back to
then
the
you do the
landmark.
landmark.
So that, you know, to your point, if we get to pick where the locations are, you do this one, and then we don't pick any locations that are anywhere near those.
Well,
Because we can
at some
control
point,
that.
we'll decide we need more benches around that area. 4 benches aren't gonna go very far. So I would like to say, if we do any more benches around the park area,
They're all the same.
they be the landmark bench.
Yeah.
And then use the Roundabush benches for other parks and other trail areas.
Good with that.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. I will, so.
So what is-
Why don't we go ahead, why don't we go ahead and just plan for 8?
Because we don't
Because
have
we
that,
don't have place for them.
yeah, that's part of what
Well,
you
let me
said.
identify places for them. We'll sit and look at the blueprints if there's additional places, because then we can sell 8 at the same time. We have 8 to sell.
That makes sense to me, because we're already doing the concrete, right?
We can bring this back next month. I mean.
Yeah.
As far as,
I think
Yeah, but I
for
like
planning
that.
purposes
Why
though,
don't you
then
go
let's
ahead and look-
circle back. For planning purposes, I would stick with the idea of the landmark bench being the Kephart Park area and then the Rowdy Bush benches being in other trail locations.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay.
I would like to see a motion and an approval of the roundabout benches for trails at $1,000 each, with $1,000 donation, okay? And our other parks, excluding Kephart.
Somebody else can go ahead and.
All right, I'll make a motion that the Rowdy Bush benches have the opportunity to be procured at $1,000, sold, I should say, at $1,000 a piece, sponsorship at locations outside of Kephart Park. And in areas that we designate and that we use landmark benches in Kephart Park with a number to be determined at a future time. All in favor? Aye.
Not to kill a dead horse, but do you have a specified amount for the landmark park benches that you would like to see? 3,000? The cost is about 25.
15, I don't know.
That's what I had in my sponsorship packet, but I didn't turn down.
I'd
There you go.
Yeah.
25,
Yeah.
25.
Okay.
rather have more, because I agree with Rhonda, 4 benches is too low. I think that's a great point. I mean, if-
Just wrap it in there.
Okay.
What was that amount again? 2,500?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, now let's get an easy decision.
Okay, we do have just, I don't think there's anything else that we put in here. Just one thing, since we're talking about Kephart, and we did receive 2 quotes for mowing. We are looking at that. I know there was discussion to make that decision today. We need to figure out where that money's coming from, because that amount is not in the budget line that it was in there. So we're supposed to be
We know
meeting
that,
with,
though. We knew that going in, so.
we're supposed to be meeting with Allenstone to figure that out, and then we'll figure out the 2 options. That all I'm supposed to say for that?
Yeah. We'll bring back the mowing contract for you to make a decision, but first we gotta get that and then figure out how we're gonna pay for it. 'Cause I don't want you guys to approve something and then go broke.
Okay. So, Kephart sign, we looked at a few different options last week, I think. These were some, so there's 2 examples here. We asked them to put some color to it. I think we selected the basic concept. The sign, can you still hear me if I go right here? I've got a gym voice, so if not. This monument sign, as it is indicated here, would be a 2-sided, I don't know the proper words to say, but 2-sided, that essentially when you're driving along 144, you can see it from your side.
That's a 2 end.
So the wording would be visible point east and west.
It would be at the 2 entrances of the park.
No, we're talking about the big sign.
Oh, I thought, okay, I'm not looking over here.
We're talking about the big sign.
Okay.
And then these, which are called, labeled here, entrance pillars, would be, and I don't think I didn't bring anything with identifiers, but those would be at either, not even entrance, but when you first get to the park on either side. He calls it something fancy. I'm not a fine person, so I don't know.
Okay, so is the concept then the one big sign and the two entrance signs?
Yes, but it's not an entrance sign in the sense of to
There's not a road beside.
the road.
Okay.
It's almost, so the layout, and I should have brought the layout of Kephart. There are two small little areas.
here.
Is there on the back?
Yeah.
I didn't look at the back. Well, that makes sense. So, on here, this is the monument sign where you can see it either way. And then these two identifiers here would be the pillar sign.
And will those be east and west, or will they just be one side
They are one
facing
sided.
the road?
Gotcha. But it
What
is
it says.
pretty close to where the entrance is.
Yeah.
As far as.
Yes.
Yeah,
So it's the entrance to the park. It is close, but it's not
yeah, I know.
right there. So these are identified lawn areas, I guess, on here. So that's where the pillars would go, and then everything that, I think we asked for some color to be added. I can put this back here. That's why there's this blue. Blue is taken from the future branding information that will be released. I think probably because I didn't like the brown, but it does not have to be blue. We really wanted to see your feedback. If you have any opinions, if there's anything you really agree or disagree with that sign. And we have an estimate, which is.
We've got to this point, I'm sorry, we've got to this point with a couple of meetings with Susie. Okay. So Susie's been involved in this, and that's where it's been down to that point right now.
Does she, I mean, I feel like that should be driven by her.
She did not care. She asked that we bring this, and then you guys talk about the color or anything like that.
I was looking at your slide, the quality is all the same. Why don't no longer
This right here.
So the pillars are
That's what our new logo is.
these three are the pillars.
This is what our,
I'm ready.
that's what our new logo is. That's what people see on the trucks.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're trying to tie that blue
Let's
in.
see all three of them.
I like just the icon on it that I got a little cleaner color and some changes too.
Okay. So the sidings are a little bit different.
Of these, and that's not how they.
This right here, this is concrete. This thing, this side right here, shaped like that. It's like that with concrete. Okay? That's what you see there.
Right.
This is sitting on top.
And that's why.
So it's expensive. None of them, they're all same price.
So we don't know what the price is yet because we don't know what the condition
Because
is.
they're so similar, I don't want to spend $5,000 more on some, on one of these when we go to the same price on all.
We have a range, but it does not include the concrete base. We were given the range, and we're gonna have that conversation later today to get a better idea. The one thing it just said, so they could go, variable pricing are on the dimensional letters. We could go from a dimensional letter to a flat cut option, which would reduce the pricing. But the presented options, did you want me to give a range of what that
Right,
was?
but it's almost what you're saying. It's just mind-boggling.
As presented, it was $35,000 to $40,000, not including the concrete rate.
Okay, so this one's out. It's got more concrete.
We talked
Right, and this was not rolling the cost of the park.
No.
Well, no, there was a budget would be
$7,500.
about a budget of $7,500.
That might be part of it.
What about Wagner Sign? Sign company, Wagner was the only one that actually ever got the point where they could do something for us.
Keith doesn't care, please. Do like one or two better, and I kind of don't mind the flat lettering rather than raised lettering.
I guess this right here is Roosevelt,
Right, yeah.
because it's got a shadow.
I mean, I can see that there's the your signs inside.
The thing I don't, I think, I don't care about the design, but I think, where are we, like, is this gonna come out of front, but what
Let's come out of your budget, we got railways a year.
I don't like that. Can we look at some other company, I mean, like that, this is my business, I'm in the printing design business, that's too high. That's too high.
That was not the price we were expecting.
Yeah.
It's not what we were talking, it's not what we were expecting. But you gotta remember, this sign's,
I think it actually.
I don't know, almost 20 foot wide.
You're right, I like blue, and we were talking the original design.
Well,
I was thinking,
you know, I tell you,
we don't wanna make it a sign, but our business are lighting.
Which there is conduit, and we'll,
in the area, yeah.
there's conduit, so there will be uplighting that we can do, that won't be an issue, but. That size.
So regardless of who does it, are we good with the middle design as something to present to the next people who say, we kind of want this idea?
Unless we go to them and say, we're thinking 20,000, what options do you have better for us, better classic park like signs? Have we asked your other park contacts what sign companies they use?
I know of one, just from a trade show, that has done, maybe, I don't remember. I had to reach out to anyone, this is all in process. Not that specific one, they came in with,
You got me.
I think there were two in discussion that, heard from one. Five different options, something like that. So one of the other options was actually the location was completely different. It was a one-sided sign that was up here, that went this way. For comparison, but I kept comparing what the designs for the Cancun sign. That's actually not a lot of place. So I just thought.
Location, where you say they're going out,
It's not there at Cancun, Mexico.
oh, no,
I remember you going to
So I had a letter spelling out Cancun with the way get picture. But we had talked about, thought a two-sided, I think more than that. Yeah.
What's the cost if you skip the little deals on
We're gonna have a conversation. We just got a range of what as presented.
we just got the range yesterday, was it? I believe. And he called me yesterday after he emailed it, and I never called him back yet. And I told Chris, I said, we'll call him after this meeting.
You just got off the heart line.
We can, okay, so, I mean, you all can pass this. And I mean, either entrance can be taken, right?
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
If you pass,
Go in there.
if you pass the other way.
So we see the middle sign, you're gonna look for somewhere to turn in.
Right. I mean, I still think this is high, but for the sake of, it's high, and they're gonna look out, you know. Did they take it when they can get it done?
We're running down the water right now.
I was gonna say, yeah, but, you know, it's,
So can you spend $40,000 in a hurry?
think there's a possibility we can whittle this guy down. I think there's a possibility, just as an example, of service boundary letters, some things like that. I think if we can agree on the looks, the structure, okay? And that's what we need to have further conversation.
And you said it was a 20-foot sign? Is that the size needed to be visible? And where is that?
Well, they work with our engineers on the location.
And some of them made it smaller from what was presented. Because there was a lot, the base was a lot.
I don't. Is that the dimensions?
Yes,
Okay. Was it 20-foot or 6? I can't remember.
it is, the concrete base is 192 inches.
And it's got a cap. But it's less than 20 foot. What's the cap? Yeah. Aluminum. So, I guess how they painted is like powder, some kind of powder coating. I would think it's a powder coated aluminum. Right. They have to be. And we told them this, right? And I told them specifically, we don't want something that's going to fall apart. We want something there for years, right? And that's what we have got. We have got a sign that's going to be there for 20 years. And when it's a car, you're buying a car, it's a car, so it is going to fade, I mean, we can think, we can get a sign that's going to last 5 years, or we get a sign that's going to last 20 years. This is the sign that's going to last 20 years.
I don't think our question is the quality, like the size.
Wagner's sign is a very, very reputable. You guys probably see the trucks around them. They've done, I mean, their list of experiences. They've done a bunch of Indianapolis parks, signs like that. They've done a whole bunch of subdivisions. They've done the subdivisions out here, actually. We're going to signs, inner signs. They've done just they do a lot. I think you probably.
So if we want to whittle down, we delete the entrance and entryway signs and just stick with the center sign and get prices for it. What do you want on the line?
I would get pricing and estimate completion date.
Estimation date right now. It's the one in May. I don't think that it's possible.
That's maybe say it's possible.
June, okay. And that's probably when, I mean, we don't have sign necessarily for, being ready. It'd be nice to have it, but it should probably pretty quick. I don't want to get so it's that look real nice. I don't want to pull big trucks in there, carry them out either. Right. Which would be doing. Yeah. So I really need it. I apologize for the late and the quick. We're not trying to do something on your real quick. It's just, didn't plan this very well. So now we're down to one. I don't care if it's, I don't have any dedication or anything to this particular sign company, but I do know that they've got so far into it that we're going to have to get caught out and we're going to automatically lose more time than someone else comes into. I know people that can do, we wouldn't produce I would advise that we check with them on what cost would be to go with a single sign in the center, because we agreed that the two on the outside is unnecessary.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Then I would give advice on that and, confirm they can check, they can still complete it in June. When is the last date that we need to know? Meantime, we can some other opportunities for us to get something like this. Right, to provide more competitive. We can, let's see what the best deal you can get on that one side is, and that's kind of what I'm thinking is going to happen. I'm going to have a conversation. Yeah, you scared our board to death. There's no way we have to kind of make it, but we want that sign. I mean, you get the deal, I'll get the deal.
Just shrink that concrete base, I mean, I don't know what.
We have 14 inches, so I don't know. We need to shrink it lengthwise.
The original was.
Yeah, the original kind of came out like that, and it just looked kind of odd. And I do like the blue over the brown.
My comment on the original one, I said, well, that's perfectly. It is crap. And that's what would happen. Yeah. How close is that to the trail, that location? Can you spin it one around? And the trail is.
The trail is.
It's pretty close to the trail, actually.
Yeah. The trail doesn't kind of look like
Yeah.
this one doesn't show up, but I think it comes. Here.
Right. I think there's something on space. Right, I mean, this is a piece of grass. I guess it was trying to do so kids do some work. We got to show them. Are we okay with the concept, the shape, the looks of the sign, and then that's what we were intending to do with Susie.
I prefer the blue, the size looks appropriate. It's just the cost.
I don't know where the money's coming from. Yeah, I mean, what shop wants to pay for it? What? I mean, we just have to figure it out. You got to remember, I just spent you $7,500. The majority of that would be used towards construction because it's already committed. And also, we're going to be raising money in the future. I suspect we're going to raise a considerable amount of money, hopefully, for our grand opening, our celebration, because we're going to have it's going to be a big deal. This isn't going to be, let's go out and, 10 people show up and kind of rip and take pictures, okay?
But every meeting we spend more money.
I know, that's a position.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we have to take our chances and wait on
Something that's, yeah. I don't have the answer. That's what I'm for. Again, this is another deal that we've got to get the pad and stone and finalize these projections. And
see what we are. And we're gonna be meeting that, and hopefully, I don't know if they're ever set up or not, next week, maybe. Okay.
Well, let's do that, because that's important, right? Obviously, I mean,
My next item should be very short. Renovation updates to me for the community center. The stoves are gone. So the stoves have been removed, we removed all the random furniture, so the couch, the seat, later, the table that's in that for all kind of is gone. But we're supposed to start at 8:30 this morning, so everything in there, including the cabinets, and then you need it ready. We're down the room closet and a couple things, so the space by the restroom is a little bit wider. So that's cleaner, so it looks much better. We already have. So there was one that was agreed upon before I came. Fantastic, I think we'll be able to do some stuff in the future. He already started, painting will be done by next Tuesday, so we will go in, take pictures of the first side and start to after a couple of sides. And then we have our first rental, the first for the shower, has already been done, so we're starting to do that. These small things that will need to be done, Wi-Fi going in, that will allow us to have box. There's building signage has been ordered, and not going to change the restroom supplies until what is our command rent out, and then we'll go to dispenser, things like that. There's some random Valley and Sharmon and stuff in there now, so we'll just say what is there and then move forward, so. Looks different. The one question we had was the exterior of that building, where might be painting the doors and the shutters. One picture doesn't look like a home in that area, but wanted your feedback on if you would have a specific color you would like the shutters. They are a green that are appealing and they look great right now. Black, is it black? I don't know what it's dark. It's not black. Because you died. But anyway, is there any?
Have you seen the doors to the window? Let me back up just a little bit.
good.
Let me back up. Originally, I said we would spend $25,000 to get this thing up to speed. I told you guys that, right? Okay. When I priced aluminum storefront, I bought the front door of this building. Okay. Yeah, it was like, crap, we can't do that. So instead we put a window like that and both those doors, okay, which makes it look more commercial.
Nobody gets hit.
And that was like less than $1,000. I can't remember what it was. Okay, so now we got this money that we want to fill the door, and that's what Chris said. Okay, great, let's paint the whole inside of the place. So we're painting everything inside, including the dingy looking cabinets. We would just make that just really stand out. And that's gonna be $6,000, $7,000.
Yeah, I think because they include exterior, it went up a couple hundred.
Yeah. So, I mean, we got the money to do it, so we're cleaning up and getting it all painted and everything, so that's the reason why it's painted. And the doors, gotta be painted. But doors are good shape. Structurally, they're very good.
The building is white. The building's white. The one thing I did not bring is the sign that we ordered. It will go up next to the door, right on the building, that just says Bargersville Community Center, and it is that color blue. I'm good with staying with the blue, or I think I see some gray on that sign just to be, but the rest of it is still.
So they'll have a blue door, wood trim, a blue door, blue shutters. We can do that.
Quick update on the Kepler Park splash pad, just an FYI, because it was not we do need to file a new swimming pool application information that will make the annual plans to be, I know it's not approval, but it's technically. So I talked to the health department, so I got that ready to go. There is no fee for government units. So, that will be annual. Might wait a little bit just to make sure, but there's no fee to it. We also worked out, how we're going to do the weekly water samples, and required to submit weekly water samples, to the state. Johnson County Health Department actually has a co-op program already for that. With the testing, we will be using the water department weekends. That's all the process, and should be fairly easy. Dollars a week or something like that, that we'll have to do to submit a weekly to the state. It's pretty standard. The last one I have is a lot of information. I know you guys need to review it as well. Make the rules, regulations, and everything consistent. We'll have the current ordinance, and it's working, I worked out a little differently just because I do it on the computer, I put it online from American Legal Publishing, so they lay it out a little bit differently. But these are my proposals to what the rules should be. I would say a good majority of it is the same, and I have a PDF of the actual ordinance that I need to change in that. I'm not sure you guys as well, that it crosses out or whatnot, moving red and whatnot. So I have that, I can send, that's something to revisit. To the police. Main thing in there is firearms, the law has changed since the ordinance. What you say can and cannot be carried. So we talked about fireworks, firearms, explosive devices. So I already spoken to him, that's reflected in here. For the next month that you review that, and then if you agree with that, you can save it and then present. Questions? All right.
I appreciate all your work. This is awesome. Good job. Yes. Let's take a look at the minutes real quick. Make a motion that we approve the minutes as presented. Good correction, please, with that. Good correction, the date, top, what age. All in favor? Aye. Not have a budget to review, which actually works out. So we'll review that next time. Let's see, the next meeting is on there. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Meeting adjourned.